Welcome in to the Home to Self podcast, or maybe you are watching this as a video, in which case, hello. I'm so glad that you're here. We're going to dive into the process of going from a phase where you might feel a little stuck, a little disconnected from yourself, to coming back home to yourself, to redirecting your focus inward and allowing yourself to meet yourself deeper so that you can experience this next version of yourself that is wanting to be birthed. And maybe it's not even that you're feeling fully stuck. Maybe you're just in that state where you're like, I know that I'm capable of more. I want more for myself. I want to love bigger. I want to express in a deeper way. Right? I want to let my authenticity shine through. I want to go after my dreams. Regardless of where you are on that path, what I have found to be true is that we go through ups and downs in life. And you know this as well, right? There are seasons of our lives where we are feeling so high, so on top of the world, just going for it, really, and feeling good about ourselves on the inside. And then there's times where life gets challenging. And we start to pour all of our energy into our circumstances and into other people, and there's not a lot left for ourselves. And it's usually when we've been in that phase for a little while that we start to really feel that disconnection. And this shows up differently for so many people, right? It might just feel like something's not quite right. I feel kind of off. I'm not as happy and joyful and expressive as I usually am, right? My relationships are suffering a little bit. Maybe you've had anxiety more chronically these days. Maybe there's a lack of self-trust that you're ready to really start pouring into and cultivating because you know how important that is. Or maybe you just feel like you're just getting by. You're going through the motions, you're doing the things, you're sticking to the routine, but there's not a lot left at the end of the day to pour into yourself. And if you're here, I'm going to assume that you know how powerful and important that relationship to yourself really is. Because this has been the story for so many women of nurturing and pouring into other people and other things so much that there is not a lot left for ourselves. But we are changing that. And there's more and more women coming to this work, starting to do the inner work, the self-development work, to really heal their relationship to themselves, pour back into themselves because they understand that they are at the root, they are at the center of their own reality. You are at the center of your reality. The life you see outside of you, which includes all of your relationships, your work, your health, right? The opportunities you see around you or don't see. All of that is an extension of us. And this is the most important place to start. This is the reminder that we get to come back to every time we've lost ourselves or veered too far off track, which again is going to happen, and that's okay. It's just, how do we start to come back? How can we start to cultivate the tools and the awarenesses and the practices to come back faster and smoother every single time? Because again, life is going to come with its ups and downs. That's the point. Because every time we feel low again, we feel that disconnect again, we feel like something's off again, that is our opportunity to meet ourselves even deeper, to catapult ourselves into the next evolution of who we are here to be, which again comes in layers, right? You meet yourself more deeply every time you go through one of these cycles of death and rebirth. Old versions of us have to die in order for new ones to be birthed, to emerge. It's like a snake shedding its skin. And so the more that we can get comfortable with these phases and also really pour into the process of learning how to come back to ourselves and reconnecting to our truth, the easier it becomes to navigate the waves of life. Which also means that you will be growing and really evolving and changing and continuing to meet yourself deeper and express yourself more authentically and dive deeper into your gifts, right? Like, this is really the whole point of why we are here, in my opinion. I used to be, like so many people, under the illusion that I was here to follow some sort of timeline that society had kind of put in place for me, right? That it was about graduating high school, then going to college, then getting a job, then hopefully meeting a person and getting married and having kids. And you know what I mean? There's this kind of timeline that's just been laid out for most people that, unless you start to discover, what do I actually want? What is my purpose here? What feels good to me? If we don't start to ask ourselves those questions, then we unconsciously just go through the motions of life and end up getting somewhere where we're like, well, I have all the things I was told I wanted, but something still doesn't feel quite right. I'm not as happy as I could be, right? There's a whisper in my soul that's just telling me this is not it. And so the beauty of this work, the beauty of this journey, even if you're in a lull right now, is that your soul is asking you to reconnect. And that is the whole reason why we are here. We're here for spiritual evolution. We're here to grow as human beings and increase our capacity, right? And heal from everything that's holding us back, the limiting beliefs, the unprocessed emotions, the hurtful experiences, right? The triggers, so that can kind of clear and we can find our way again. It's only when we clear the baggage and the clouds that are in the way, clouding our perspective and our truth, that we then reconnect with ourselves a layer deeper, get to know ourselves on an even deeper layer, and then take action from that place. That is really the whole journey that we're here on, that we're here for, right? And each person has their authentic curriculum, their soul's curriculum that they came here in this lifetime and in this body to work through. And it's not, you can look at that as like, oh my gosh, I have to do so much work and it's a forever journey and whatnot. Or you can look at it as, wow, my potential as a human being, as a soul, is limitless. There's literally no cap to what I can achieve in this lifetime and who I can become, right? My ability to love, my ability to create, it's limitless. Meaning that every time you go through one of these death and rebirth cycles, or even just reaching for the next layer of you and embodying your capacity and meeting your edges and getting to know yourself, every time you go through that cycle, you are stepping up, you are up leveling in like a video game, which means life can just get better and better and better and better. And there's no limit to that. So I hope that this reminds you that wherever you are, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with your journey. There's nowhere else you should be. Life knows what it's doing. And again, our contribution and our, like the way that we can support the evolution that's trying to happen is by going through this process of reconnecting to ourselves every time that we get lost a little bit, right? Every time that something feels a little bit off. That is like the little bell that's going off in the background or in your intuition saying, hey, pay attention, come back to me, bring your energy back, refocus, right? And so that is the opportunity, and that's what we're going to go through in this episode together. We're going to go through what that journey gets to look like and what the different components of that journey are that, again, we get to go through over and over and over again in our lives. And that is a beautiful thing because it gets deeper and more meaningful and more authentic and more powerful every single time, right? So bringing it back real quick, like I mentioned earlier, the life that you see around you, the life that you are living, is literally an extension of you. And this is the place to start. Because oftentimes when we are caught in the motions and feeling stuck and stagnant, or we're stuck in survival mode, right? We're in just like this chronic stress, either because we're going through a new job or changes in our lives or whatever the reason is. We've all experienced this and we will continue to. phases, right? We, in those moments, often lose our connection to ourselves because our energy gets turned around and focused entirely on our external reality. And the reason for this is because the human dilemma, right? The Maya, the illusion of the mind is thinking that we feel the way that we do because of our circumstances. It's because I got fired from that job that I feel the way that I do. It's because life has been so stressful that I feel disconnected, right? It's because of the troubles in my relationship that I don't love myself right now. It makes sense. And again, it's understandable why the mind does that, because yeah, our circumstances are an extension of us. And so it's hard to disconnect from that. However, that equation is backwards. Or I should say, it goes both ways. But the way to bring back your power, the way to come home to yourself, the way to reconnect and find yourself again is by recognizing that you are at the center of your own universe, right? That you have more control than you think, and that life externally is an extension of your inner world. And this is a beautiful thing. I know this can seem overwhelming at times, but it doesn't need to, because you're not meant to figure it all out at once, right? You're meant to be a human. It's meant to be a messy journey. You're meant to be, pieces of your life are supposed to be hard, because that is how we understand where within us we get to heal another layer deeper. And therefore, touch an even deeper layer of ourselves and our authenticity and of our expression of our divinity and the gifts that we're here to give as humans. So if you can see it that way, then life becomes less of a mystery and more of an exciting game, if you will, of seeing your external reality as a mirror for your evolution. It's like, where in my life am I not living a 10 out of 10? Is it in my relationships? Is it in my health? Is it in my work? Is it in finances? Is it in my purpose? Whatever it is. If it's not a 10 out of 10, then get excited, because that is life acting as a mirror for you to help you look within yourself, release a limiting story, process emotions around some past experience that's still clouding your perspective, so that you can again up-level yourself and therefore up-level your life. And there's no limit to that. It's so much more exciting to view life this way. And once you really start to see it, you can't unsee it. All right? So, life is an extension of you. And again, this is a beautiful thing, because that means that you are at the source, meaning you have the power. If we were really victims of life, which is often how our minds interpret things, right? Because it can just feel too much, too overwhelming, and that's okay. However, if that were really the case, that would mean that we are completely powerless, that we don't actually have the power to change anything, meaning we're just at the mercy of our circumstances. Most people live from that perspective, and that was my story for so long. I mean, that is literally the generational curse that I am here to break, and so many of us are, really, because this information wasn't available a long time ago. But now it is, and that's really exciting. We live in a really beautiful time where we get to do this work, where we get to come home to ourselves, where we get to implement these different tools and practices, and therefore up-level our lives in so many ways. That is a privilege we now have. I hope you can see it that way. So coming back, I used to view life as if I was the victim. And from that place, the only thing I could do to find some relief from that was complain a lot and try to control my circumstances. Because if you are under the constant belief that the way you feel is because of your life and your circumstances, then it makes sense that we're going to try and control our circumstances. But that is the ultimate recipe for burnout and exhaustion and survival mode, which is where so many people are. And it's no fault of their own because they're not aware of it, right? However, just this one understanding that you are at the center of your own universe and that your life is revolving around you and your state, your internal world, your subconscious beliefs, which you're not aware of. And that's why sometimes it can be like, well, I don't understand why my relationships are suffering. Like, I don't want them to. How am I creating this, right? Don't blame yourself. Don't be hard on yourself because 95% of your life is dictated by your subconscious mind. And that's literally the part of your mind that you are not consciously aware of. However, if you use your triggers and you use your life as portals to understand these programs in your subconscious, to meet yourself deeper, and you have the tools and the practices to actually do that, to use your life as a mirror, that's when you can start to reveal what's in the subconscious and transmute it and create a different reality for yourself. So again, you are more in control than you think. And this is why doing the self-mastery work, becoming the master of your own internal reality, is the way to transform your external reality. Instead of trying to control and change your circumstances in order to feel better, which again is exhausting because we don't really have control over anything outside of ourselves, it is so much more effective and enjoyable to actually come back to ourselves, take responsibility without blame or fault over, I wonder what subconscious limitation is causing me to see life in this way or to attract unavailable partners, right? Or to play small or to continue to people please. When we lean in with curiosity, that is our access point to liberation, to freeing ourselves another layer deeper, right? There's this quote in a book called The Shaman of Tibet that I love that says, life is nothing more than soul meeting itself in the outward world. Life is nothing more than soul meeting itself in the outward world. Again, when you change within, your world will shift. That is the beauty, that is the motto, that is the work. And that's what makes life really exciting. So let's keep going here. I want to, before we get into like, what are the steps, what is the process of reconnecting to ourselves, right? That we get to go on every single time that we feel off. Before that, I just want to preface this by saying, no one taught you how to master your inner world. And I wish they did. I wish we learned this in elementary school because that's how important it is. And things are starting to shift in this world. These practices are coming in, and that is so exciting. However, for most of us who are already in our adult lives, we were just not taught this growing up. And that's why we are where we are. That's why life has felt a little challenging. That's why we find ourselves in these states where we feel stuck and stagnant and unfulfilled. And hopefully this just brings in so much compassion because, again, we learned all these different subjects in school: science, math, languages, arts, chemistry, biology, all these things, but we didn't learn mindset work. We didn't learn how to regulate our emotions. We didn't learn how to regulate our nervous system, right? We didn't learn that we are at the center of our own universe and how our subconscious creates our reality. So it's not your fault. However, it becomes your responsibility if you want to transform your life for the better. You get to learn this work. You get to go on this journey. You get to choose yourself over and over and over again if you desire to access your most abundant, authentic, vital, connected self and create that in your life, right? This is why I'm so passionate about teaching this work, because we all have the ability to create the life of our dreams. And it's not by pushing harder, forcing ourselves, or doing more. It's about redirecting that focus inward and looking where within me do I have the opportunity to break free and reconnect at a deeper level so that it can show itself in my external reality. That is so exciting. So again, it's not your fault. Don't add blame or shame or guilt into this equation. Just use your power to change. Use your power to meet yourself deeper, right? Because underneath all of the programming, all of the emotions, all of the discomfort, the disconnect is your true self, is your authentic self, is your soul that is untouchable. No matter what happens to you or what you go through in this life, your worthiness does not change. It can't, because your soul is an essence, it's an energy. And it has been worthy since the moment you entered into this world, right? I often like to give the example of like a newborn baby that comes into this world is seen by every adult as a living, breathing miracle. We just know that. The baby has to do absolutely nothing. It can't even talk. It can't do anything. Can't even take care of itself. It's completely helpless in that way. And yet, just for being alive, we recognize it as a miracle, right? You are still that baby. Your soul is still the same soul that was in that baby form when you came into this world. Meaning that you are just as worthy as that baby, just because you are alive and you are an expression of the divine. So that's what we want to reconnect to. Keep that in mind as you go through this journey, right? That's who you are reconnecting to. Because I can speak for myself, but when I was going through my dark night of the soul, when I was absolutely being tumbled under the waves with no way out, feeling like I was just losing my breath and I didn't know what way to go. I didn't know how I was ever going to find myself again. I didn't even remember like who I really was. Like, who is the Lilly that is in her most authentic, powerful self, or in her, like that version of self, right? Sometimes when you're so far gone, so far down the rabbit hole, you lose sight of that. You forget what it felt like to really be in your power. So if that is the case, if you are finding yourself there now, remember the person, or I should say the energy that you're connecting to is your true self. And that self can't be diminished. It's never actually lost. It's always within you. So even if you don't remember what that's like, or you've never fully tapped into that, just know that it is more beautiful, that she is more capable, more powerful, more authentic, more expressed, more free than you could ever even imagine. And you've never actually lost touch with her. There's just a lot of baggage in the way. And that's what we're going to clear through the process that I'm going to take you through. Okay? Now, the process that I have discovered that you get to take and make your own takes us through the different layers that makes us us, right? Because as much as we are this beautiful, divine soul essence that is untouchable and worthy exactly as you are, we are also human. We are so very much also human. And that is beautiful because in this reality, there is duality, right? That's what makes this life what it is. There's light and there's dark. There's up and there's down. There's left and there's right. There's in and there's out. For everything in life, there is its equal and opposite counterpart. So, for the divine soul that is perfect exactly as it is, untouchable, worthy, beautiful, divine, a pure expression of God and love, we also have the opposite, which is the human, the humanity, right? The messiness, the trauma, the triggers, this human body that, as perfect as it is, it also just has its imperfections. That is just part of being human. No one gets away with that, right? And so instead of viewing one as good and one as bad, right? Or one is right and one is wrong, that language traps us. Instead, if we can just view it as two opposing forces that together make you whole, it becomes a lot easier to start to accept your humanity, which is an absolutely crucial step of the process. Because as long as we judge ourselves and criticize ourselves and fight ourselves in our humanity, in the messiness, in the disconnect, in the shame, we are stuck there. Whatever you judge or identify with, you are stuck with until you choose otherwise, right? So again, letting go as best as you can of the criticism and the shame is going to be your first step to stepping out of that, to finding yourself again, to reconnecting to your truth. So coming back to like what we are made of, what components make us as humans, right? Simplifying it to the most simple of simple, we have a mind, which by the way, isn't even just your brain. Your mind is an energetic field around your entire body. So you have your mental field, you have your energetic field or your emotional body, and you have your soul, your spirit, right? Mind, body, spirit, if you want to break it down simply. So those are the three big buckets, the three big components that need to be addressed in order to come back to your wholeness. Pretty self-explanatory, right? But a lot of people end up missing one or the other when they're on this journey, on this pursuit of reconnecting to themselves, of finding their joy again, of like moving past anxiety. We can sometimes get trapped and we're just too focused on just one element, and it doesn't fully work because we are not just mind and we are not just body and we are not just soul. We're all three in one, right? And so they all get to be addressed in order to really find that wholeness again, to reconnect to that wholeness. It's like a big puzzle piece, right? And so as you're going through life school and as you're getting, you're riding the waves and sometimes you're getting tumbled under and then you are coming back for air and reconnecting with your surfboard to go again and go back out there, right? This is life. This is the cycle of it, if you will. As you do that, and whenever you get disconnected, you come back to mind, body, and soul. And here is the process that I have laid out that has continued to really allow me to get back on my feet and meet myself at a layer deeper and therefore transform my life again and again and again to keep creating a more beautiful reality for myself. So starting with the mind, everything that consists of the mental field. This is a very powerful place to start because this really sits at the root of everything you experience. The way that people usually try and create change in their lives and within them, and what a lot of self-help coaches and books, start with, is behavioral changes, right? Which logically, when you first look at things, it makes sense. It's like, oh yeah, if I don't want this result in my life, then I need to change my behavior and my actions, and therefore it'll change. Makes sense. However, when you actually look at the big picture of why we do what we do, why we have the results that we have, it's the analogy I like to use is like, it's as if you were throwing a pebble into a pond, right? When you throw a rock into water, it creates ripples, right? The bigger the pebble, the more ripples and the bigger the ripples are. Your behaviors may be the fifth ripple in the water, meaning that there is other things that influenced that behavior before you ever took the action. So it's a lot more effective to actually get to the root, which is then going to influence every ripple, resulting in the circumstances and the results that you're getting in your life. Make sense? So what is at the root? What is the actual pebble that was thrown into the water? Well, we can reverse engineer our way back from the actions and the results that we're getting to the behaviors that we're taking, right? Before that is how you're feeling and your emotional state. Before that is your thoughts. And before your thoughts is your subconscious beliefs and identity. which again, most of us aren't even aware of. It lives below our conscious awareness. That's why it can be a little tricky. But it is, when you have a process for it, you can actually work with these parts of yourself. And again, actually go all the way to the root if you want to create change in your external reality. Going back all the way to the pebble instead of just trying to force your way to different results by changing your behaviors. An example I can give you here is like, let's say you wanted to get rid of an unhealthy habit. Maybe, I don't know, smoking or scrolling. Scrolling's probably more applicable here, right? You want to get rid of scrolling before bedtime. You can certainly implement strategy here, which has its place, right? You could be like, okay, I'm going to put my phone in the other room starting at 8 p.m. so then I have no way to access it. Absolutely. And that is helpful. And we do need strategy, right? However, that is not actually addressing the underlying root cause of why do you even reach for social media before bed? Because we never do things for no reason. Even if we're not aware of the reason, there is one. We always have a reason for doing things that we do, especially when they are coping mechanisms, which things like using substances or scrolling on social media or eating for like emotional eating. These kinds of different coping strategies are not just because we suck and we have no discipline. It's because there's an underlying root reason. Oftentimes, it's a subconscious belief or identity of some sort of us either not being okay, not being good enough, not doing enough, something like that, where we feel down on ourselves. And then that cascades into our body and into our minds as thoughts of like, I'm a piece of shit, I should have done more, what's going to happen, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent, whatever the stories are, right? That then influence our feelings. Then we become really stressed and anxious and uncomfortable. And then because we are humans and naturally we want to move away from pain and towards pleasure, we reach for the coping mechanism that has offered us relief in the past. Insert scrolling. When you're stressed at the end of the day and you're just tired and you want to turn your brain off and you also want to feel a little bit of dopamine and a little bit better in your own body, yeah, it serves a purpose. However, if we really want to create transformation that is lasting and take back our power, it's so much more powerful to address the underlying mental stories. And this is why we start with the mind. Wayne Dyer has a famous quote that says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Right? Even just in this case, prior to having this understanding that it all starts at a much deeper level in the subconscious mind, there may have been some judgment towards yourself for the unhealthy habits that you haven't been able to break. I know that for myself, emotional eating was something that I just could not crack the code on. And I implemented all these strategies and these rules and these like restrictive diets to try and control myself because I was like, oh my gosh, why can I not, handle this? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, there's something wrong with me. That was a very vicious negative cycle. Because think about it, the more that you shame yourself, the more that you are criticizing yourself, the more that you are battling yourself on the inside, the more stress you feel and the more relief you're going to try and reach for. It becomes a very vicious cycle. But when you start to see things differently, right, you have now the awareness of like, oh, actually, there's something subconsciously that's going on. And my body is actually just trying to help me find relief. And all it knows is to reach for what's worked in the past, which is food or scrolling on social media. So when we start to understand and see things differently, that is when we take back our power to actually be able to consciously make a different choice. So again, starting with the mind, both subconscious work and just mindset work, honestly, both of them are going to influence the reality you see around you. Because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change within you, your external reality changes as a result. It's really, really magical. And so there is a lot when it comes to mindset work. Obviously, this could be like 35 episodes on its own. Like, it's a forever journey. There's so much complexity when we talk about the subconscious and mindset work. However, I have found that two of the biggest stressors that we have as humans that really affect our lives and how we feel, that get amplified when we are in a state of stress, in a state of fight or flight, is our relationship to the past and to the future. And so these are the two big mindset shifts that I want to offer you in this episode. If you want to learn more, I am running a program called HOME, which stands for Heart Open, Mind at Ease. And the beta round is starting in a few weeks, beginning of March 2025, depending on when you're listening to this. And we are going to go dive so much deeper into all of this, into all three of these categories that we are just scratching the surface of today. But to give you some of the bigger nuggets here, our relationship to the past and our relationship to the future causes so much fear and anxiety and stress and tension that affects everything else. Again, we're looking at, the ripple number 1 or 2. So let's dive into this. The past, right? The past is gone. We know this. We understand logically that the past does not exist. We can't ever go backwards in time, and we can never go forwards in time. We're always where we are, which is in the now moment. The past lives in our minds, as does the future, right? But the past, especially, I find for people, is where we hang on to our past mentally without recognizing how much it is negatively influencing our current experience. Whether it is traumatic events from the past, whether it is experiences that we wish would have happened differently, breakups, people we lost that we wish were still in our lives, whatever it is, there's an ongoing list there of things we could mention, right? However, one quote that has transformed my perspective and allowed me to release and surrender whatever happened in the past so that I can free up that energy and come back to myself, which only lives in this present moment, is a quote by Peter Crone that says, "Whatever happened, happened, and couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't." That quote, in and of itself, can offer you so much liberation, because it is our mental attachment to the things that did or did not happen in the past that actually causes suffering in the present moment. And when we are stuck repeating the past, wishing it was different, we are completely disassociated with what's happening right here, right now. So this is a huge part of the puzzle, a huge part of the mental game is, can we continuously practice letting go of the past? Whether that was 5 minutes ago or whether that was 10 years ago. We have a lot of memories that we cling on to, not realizing that, you can absolutely not change it no matter how much you think about it. I wish I could sometimes, but you know what? When you change your relationship to the past, you recognize everything happened the way that it was supposed to. How do I know that? Because that's the way it happened. If we take emotion out of it, we just look at the logistics, like even if you expand, like look at all of human history, or even just like the life on this planet. If you were to like be able to zoom out and look at every single thing that happened to get to you to this point right now, you would realize the perfection of it all. And that is your life as well. Even if we don't want it, even if we don't prefer things, even if it was painful, every single experience you've gone through has gotten you to where you are today. It is only us with our minds that think things could have been different. But we're always doing the best we can within the level of awareness that we are currently in. Right? And so this is where we get to let go of our past so that we can come back and reconnect to ourselves in this now moment, which is where the magic lies. That is where your happiness is found. That is the only place your joy is, your soul is, your aliveness, your magnetism, your abundance, your creativity, everything that you desire exists in this moment right here. And only right here, right? So it makes sense why we gotta mentally, metaphorically, literally let go of the past. And then the next attachment and the next concern becomes the future. That becomes another area of concern, sometimes in tandem with the past. The fear of the future is the reason people have anxiety. Really, it really is that simple. When we are, and that doesn't mean it's easy to get over, but it is simple in terms of understanding it, right? When we realize that the future does not exist and that we're never actually afraid of the future because it doesn't exist, therefore it's completely unknown, and you can't fear nothing. You can't fear the unknown because you don't know what's there. Meaning that what we're actually afraid of is our own thoughts about the future. This completely blew my mind when I first heard it, because it really does offer a lot of relief when you recognize, oh wow, it's actually not the future that's scaring me, it's my own thoughts. We're scared of our own imagination. And it feels so real because we can picture the worst case scenario and we literally experience it as if it were happening in this moment. Hello, anxiety, right? Our bodies don't know the difference between what we imagine and what's actually happening. That's why this mind game is so important and really is the first step. Because you can do all the somatic practices, you can do all the nervous system regulation work, which absolutely helps and is so important. However, if you don't also look at the mind, then you're just going to be recreating the anxiety that you then have to breathe through and regulate yourself through, you know? The future is unwritten. It is completely blank. And so the way to transform your relationship to the future is recognizing that all possibilities exist. However, your mind, because it's trying to protect you, is only going to latch on to the worst case scenario because it thinks that if we can predict what's going to happen, then we can prevent the pain. But really, that rarely works. And if anything, it just causes us anxiety in the now moment, right? Again, like our past and future, it's the way that we are relating to the past and future that is causing our experience in the now. So when we change the way we look at the future and relate to it, we also change the way we feel right now. And again, this is your access point back to the peace, the safety, the love, the trust, the freedom that you already are in this moment. But we got to clear the anxiety first in order to reconnect to that. So these are two of the big mindset shifts that are so important to remind yourself of when you are feeling that disconnect, when you're really going through the motions and feeling stuck, right? We feel stuck because we are either stuck in the past or fearful of the future. So when we can do our work to let go of both of those and come back into the present moment, that is our access point back to that reconnection, back to feeling at home within our own mind and body. And then from there, it's really about letting life be your mirror and using it as data to release limiting beliefs and limiting stories, right? And so there's a few questions that I love to ask myself to take back my power, especially when I'm feeling lost, disconnected, just not like myself. That is when you know that you are getting stuck in a limiting belief and a story that isn't quite true, that is causing you suffering. Some of the questions I love to ask myself are, what is the story I'm telling myself? Again, this is taking the focal point from just thinking that it's because of your circumstances to redirecting it and using the circumstances as a mirror for what's happening within me. And so when you say, instead of like, oh my gosh, I need to change the circumstance in order to feel better, when you ask yourself, what is this revealing about me? What is the story that I'm telling myself? Right? It might be, my partner is disrespecting me, or my partner doesn't love me, or my partner doesn't care. These are stories we unconsciously create that then cause us stress and anxiety and fear in the moment. Or maybe we got fired from a job, and the story that we're telling ourselves that we're not even really aware of is that we're a failure, that we're not going to be able to pay rent, or that we're never going to find something better, right? That's where we need to catch ourselves and journal and really question and challenge those beliefs. Is it 100% true that I'm a failure? Can I know for certain that my partner doesn't love me? Hint, the answer is always no. It's no. It's not like that. The mind just creates these stories that then cause all of this tension and stress in our bodies. So if we can just bring ourselves back, again, you're bringing yourself back to the present moment and clearing the stories that are in the way, that will help you reconnect. You can also ask yourself, how is this happening for me, right? What is my soul trying to learn here? These kinds of questions, which you'll get so many more of within the home program, are going to help you and become your little guidebook to work through the mental part of your reality whenever you get stuck. And also when you're not. If you just want to up-level your life, use this formula. Use the mind, body, and spirit guidelines. Make them yours and use them every time you want to up-level your life. It works like a charm. All right, we are moving into the body section. We have our emotional body, we have our physical body, and so much more. We're not going to dive into the physical aspect of it. That is going to have to be a story for another time. But in my opinion and through my experience, addressing the emotional and energetic body is of top importance, truly, because we are energetic beings and because our emotions are so tied into how we feel and how we operate and the place from where we take action. It really is at the foundation of creating that change and changing our relationship to ourselves and reconnecting to ourselves on a deeper level. And the thing about emotions is that we as a society have labeled emotions as bad, wrong, too much, crazy, chaotic, all the emotions that are big, that are heavy, that are uncomfortable, that people would put in the negative bucket. But we're not doing negative and positive here, right? All emotions are part of the human experience. They all have their place. And really, when we change the way we look at emotions and change the way we relate to emotions as a whole, we start to learn to appreciate them more, because you can view them through a lens of oh no, I hate feeling the anxiety. I hate feeling lonely. I hate feeling sad. I hate feeling angry. However, once you start to change, like I said, change your relationship to them, you can start viewing them as your capacity to feel. And that's what's getting greater too when you're allowing yourself to regulate your emotions and process your emotions in a healthier way, right? Because really, what makes us human is our ability to feel. It's our ability to feel, and yet we've been taught to suppress so many of these emotions that are part of the human experience. And when you suppress the quote unquote negative emotions, the difficult emotions, the uncomfortable emotions, you also suppress your ability to feel all of the positive ones. So if you view feeling and emotions on a scale, what's interesting is that most humans hang out in the middle somewhere, right? They feel a little bit happy and they feel a little bit sad, and they kind of range within those main 3 or 4 emotions, and it's at a much lower level than what they are able to feel if they increase their capacity. So the beauty is when you actually start to allow yourself to feel more and more, and every time you reconnect to yourself, you're maybe going a couple degrees deeper, you are now increasing your capacity to feel ecstasy and bliss and more pleasure and more play and more freedom, right? All the emotions that we want more of. There's even levels to that, which is really exciting. I never knew how much love I could actually feel until I started feeling more love, right? And so And again, then we also are able to receive more love, and we're able to be in relationships that are deeper and more intimate and more meaningful because we have met ourselves at those deeper layers. So this is the opportunity. And the beautiful thing too is that your body is your access point to your intuition. In my opinion, this is how God speaks through us. This is how life speaks through us. This is our intuition, our higher self, our wisdom, and what I call our internal GPS, right? Because your soul, like we talked about earlier, is going through your own soul's curriculum. You have unique medicine, you have unique gifts and unique perspectives that you are here to share with the world in some way. It doesn't have to be your full-time job, but just every person and every encounter you have, you get to be your authentic self, and you are viewing life through your unique experiences and beliefs that make you you. And so we are trying to amplify that light, right? And the way to really find your way again and reconnect to yourself and live and create an authentic life is by connecting to the body. It is by creating that deep connection to your intuition, to your GPS, to your, anchor within. And when we feel disconnected, when we are in the opposite side of things, right? When life is hard and we feel not ourselves and we're engaging in these unhealthy habits and we're just disconnected in all the ways, we are disconnected also from our bodies and our intuitions. And usually, most often, it's both because of the limiting beliefs we're believing about ourselves and because of the emotions that come with those beliefs that we aren't willing to feel or don't know how to feel. Right? When we feel stuck, it's usually because we're not willing to feel the uncomfortable emotions that are living within us. And so we are disconnecting from ourselves. We are coping to find some relief instead of going right into the fire, knowing that the only way through is through. And oftentimes we make it seem like it's way too big. We can't handle it. We're going to be sucked in. We're never going to find our way out again, right? This is the stories that are created to try and avoid the feelings. But if you've ever gone into your feelings and allowed yourself to just feel them, you'll know that it doesn't actually last as long as you think. What is harder than feeling the feeling is resisting the feeling. I'll say that again in a different way. It is harder to resist the feeling than to just feel it and move through it. So if we just allow ourselves, that really can be the clarity, like on the other side of that process is the clarity that we've wanted, is our access point to our intuition to know what direction to go. Our lives are made up of millions of decisions. Every single day we're making decisions, a lot of them on autopilot. But all of these decisions are guiding us in life, right? And so when we can reconnect to our intuition, we can start creating a more authentic life through each of those decisions. And it's a practice. It's not a flip you just switch on and off. I wish it was, but it's not. But it's a practice. And it's one that with the right tools and practices, you get to reinforce. It's a muscle you strengthen over time, just like going to the gym to make your literal muscles stronger. And so, like when it comes to the how, there are so many ways to feel your emotions. And this is where you get to make all of this overview, this guidebook, if you will, is your outline. From there, you get to make it your own. But I think we overcomplicate the process of regulating our emotions because there's 1,000 different ways to do it, right? And so we're always trying to do it right. The type A personality that's like, well, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it exactly the way that I'm supposed to. But that's, again, another way we get in our own way, because the truth is that your body knows exactly what it needs. You know how to process your emotions, just like a child doesn't have to be given a strategy. They just intuitively express in the moment as it comes. You are still that child. You have that capacity. And that is your access point to your freedom, to your joy, your authenticity, and everything you desire, right? So the process really becomes one of allowing, giving yourself space, right? So when a trigger comes up, when a big emotion comes up, Can you give yourself time? And if it's not in the moment, if it comes up during the day while you're working, or you just don't have the space to really be with yourself in that moment, what you can say to yourself is, hey, I acknowledge that there's an emotion present that wants to move through me. I will get to this later in the day. And then honor your word, because that's how you build self-trust, right? And then later in the day, or again, if you have the capacity to do it in the moment, it can be as simple as, if you're angry, punch a pillow. If you're sad, cry it out. You know how good you feel after a good cry. If you're frustrated, move your body. If you're anxious, shake it out. It's getting out of the head and into your animal body, into your feeling body, and allowing it to just move. Something that I love to do as really maintenance, as well as, moving energy in the moment, is putting on a song that matches my mood. And for the duration of that song, just allowing myself to intuitively move the energy through. It's not about how it looks. It's about how it feels. And no one is watching you, right? Do this alone in your room and just do it for the sake of moving the energy through, because that's all emotions are. Energy in motion, emotion. If we don't label it as good, bad, right, wrong, or what does this mean about me or my life, it's just energy that wants to move through. So if you can find the sensation in your body, right? Anxiety might feel like tightness in the chest. Nerves might feel like butterflies in the stomach, right? You might feel the tension in your shoulders or in your lower back. Wherever you feel the sensation, it's like starting to name that and then allowing it to intuitively move out of your system. That is the way back into your body, so that you can reconnect with your intuition and then find your authentic path forward. It's always there. It's just hiding underneath these unprocessed emotions. It is so beautiful to feel. And if you allow yourself to really feel in a healthy way, you free up so much energy. Because think about how much energy it takes to suppress emotions. It's a lot. Again, it's just energy, and it's like trying to bubble out. It's like a pressure cooker that has just been cooking, right? There's buildup of pressure in there, and it's trying so hard. There's so much pressure trying to come through. That's your emotions, especially the ones that have been suppressed and accumulated, trying to come out. And they're coming out through anxiety because it's stuck. Like the feeling of being stuck. Sometimes it's literally that. There's been no movement of the energy. And so if you just allow the pressure cooker to release every day a little bit, that is a beautiful practice. And it'll allow you to feel the ease. People feel so light. This is always the word I hear after I take someone through a somatic practice. It's like, oh my God, I feel so light. Yeah, because your energy. And when that pressure cooker is released, you come back to who you truly are, which is a light being, which is freedom and space, spaciousness, right? And we talk about clarity, clear, space. It's all connected. Do you see where I'm going with this? And I think it's safe to say that we all know that the body keeps the score by now, right? Suppressed emotions, limiting beliefs, it all shows up in the body as symptoms, as nagging symptoms like chronic fatigue and insomnia and just like low mood and all these little symptoms that so many of us feel. Like that is also going to get better. The word disease breaks down to dis-ease, a lack of ease. But ease is available to you when you are willing to let go of the stories and the emotions that are weighing you down, that are making you feel stuck. And again, if you want more, if you feel like you really are ready to dive into this and you want some support to actually implement this, to gather the tools and the practices that you can use and put into your toolbox as you navigate the waves of life, then join us for the home program. All the show notes are going to be, or all the links are going to be in the show notes below. And like I said, this beta round is going to be at a better price than ever again. Okay, last one. Thanks for hanging in me. I know this is a longer episode, but this just feels so important because this is the death and rebirth cycle that we will go through for the rest of our lives. but it can be so much more graceful and easeful and exciting and liberating the more that we do it and the more familiar it becomes. The last piece of the puzzle, right, as we start to descend from mind to body to soul, although they all exist on the same playing field, they're just energetic states too, is soul, spirit, our essence, our truth, right? We talked about this already, but that's who you truly are. I call it the self with a capital S. As opposed to the small self, it's your true self. It's that essence, that energy. And this is a piece that a lot of people disregard on their journey, on their healing journey, on their, pursuit of happiness, pursuit of authenticity. They look at the mind, sometimes they even look at the body, but they don't really like reconnect to themselves on a soul level. And it's such a missed opportunity, because part of living your best life, part of being your most authentic self and sharing your magic with the world is having a connection with your true self, right? It's living from that soul essence as often as you can, knowing you're still human. You're still going to have your egoic tendencies. However, the more you get to know yourself on an authentic soul level, the more you get to embody it. And that is your magnetism. That is your freedom and your love and everything that you are here to embody. And so even if we think about, how we said at the beginning, your life is an extension of you, right? In order to create change, if we start at the pebble instead of the fifth ripple, what this can look like on a spiritual level is be the person you want to be, embody the qualities of your soul essence, then act from that place, and then you will have all the things that are an energetic match to that frequency that you are embodying. So let's get practical. What does it look like to embody your soul essence? What does it look like to reconnect to this part of you, this essence that is always there, available and ready, right? Again, we have to quiet the mind. We have to find clarity. We get to find spaciousness in our bodies. And this is when we start to meet the soul, which whispers. It's quiet. It's not forceful. It's more just, I don't know. I picture it as it's like this authenticity that just kind of lingers in the background, and it doesn't need to be forceful, because it's like, I'm here when you're ready, right? Whenever you're ready to come back home and reconnect to who you truly are, outside of the rat race and the fucking, hustle bustle, like, I'm right here and I'm never leaving. And this again gets to be a beautiful journey that is authentic to you. And it's going to evolve with you over the years as you grow. But for me, it's always been easiest to connect to this part of me and this truth through nature, through pleasure, and through play. And this, I think, will resonate mostly with all the women, because the feminine is also nature and its movement and its pleasure. Like, these are aspects of the feminine energy, right? And so a huge part of this reconnection process, and the third component of the home program, is the spiritual reconnection to who you really are. And these are the pieces that we're going to use to get us there. Nature, I think is pretty self-explanatory why it's so healing, right? Not only does it regulate our nervous system, right? If you want to regulate your body, you can implement practices like breath work, shaking, all the modalities that I listed and more. But you can also go into nature, like go get lost on a hike, go sit by a body of water, go sit and watch the ocean and the waves. Like, there is a co-regulation process that happens, and it helps us remember our truth, because we are nature. So nature is an amazing way. And something I love to do is, I call them intuition days, right? So if you want to also strengthen your intuition and reconnect to that soul essence and all that is, you can, mark your calendar. Maybe you take a few hours, or maybe you can have the luxury of taking a whole day on like a Sunday or something, and you just allow your intuition to make every decision. Maybe you grab some coffee at your favorite coffee shop, in the morning, and then you go on a new hike, and Every direction, every turn, you just allow your intuition to tell you where to go and you trust it. It's a beautiful practice, and you're also in this co-creation with nature, which I love. Then we have play. Play is huge. It's so healing, and yet we don't prioritize it, especially when we are going through it, especially when we are in fight or flight and survival mode, and we think that we need to put all of our energy into doing more, making money, changing, working out, whatever it is for you. Like, play is the first thing that goes. And yet, I don't think people realize what a disservice that does to our ability to reconnect to ourselves and find our joy again and find our magnetism and our power again, which in turn is going to allow us to make the changes we need to in our lives. Start with yourself, and yourself, your true self, needs play. It needs fun. It needs adventure. Right? We all have an inner child in there that's forever in there that just wants to have fun. It doesn't want to take everything so seriously. So let us not forget the healing that comes when we allow ourselves off the hook to just be unproductive for the sake of play. My healing journey, I feel like the moment that I finally started to actually heal was when I softened on all the controlling mechanisms that I was trying to implement to control every aspect of my health. And I allowed myself to stay up a little later on the weekends and play and go dance and go to a concert again, like just engage in some playful action, dance, be silly, make jokes, dance in a way that just was fun. Whatever it is for you, think of how you used to like to play as a child. Did you love to dance? Did you love to go build a sandcastle? Like, climb trees, play board games, like get dressed up, put makeup on, whatever it is, like allow yourself. The only person that's stopping you is you. Thinking that it's not professional or there's no time for it or people are going to judge you, whatever the stories are, clear those and then allow yourself to just play. It's so healing and we really, really, really need it. And it connects us to that soul essence. Because our souls don't need to take everything so seriously. It's our egos that take it so seriously. Our souls know we're just here. It's temporary. We're all going to die at the end. And that seems hard to look at sometimes, but it doesn't need to. Not when you know that you're a soul and that it's just a journey. It's just part of the journey. So we might as well enjoy the ride here. Like, why do we do all this work if we can't play? So play, huge one. Find your own expression through that. And then pleasure. Pleasure and play go hand in hand. You can do usually when you're in play, you're enjoying it for the most part, right? If you're really allowing it. And so that's pleasurable. But pleasure, especially for the feminine, is also what really brings us into our magnetism as women, right? And I think oftentimes people interpret pleasure as sexual, which it can be for sure. And there's a lot of power in your sensuality. But that's more what I associate pleasure with, is allowing yourself to receive, which is really a representation of how connected you are to your senses, which again is one of your superpowers as a woman, especially if you consider yourself to be sensitive, which I am as well. That means your senses are even more activated. And we've always viewed this as a bad thing because it can be overwhelming. However, it also means that you have the ability to feel so much pleasure if you allow it. So what would it look like to allow yourself to be more in a state of pleasure? Again, yes, this can mean, literally pleasuring yourself, which we need to remove the taboo of, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful practice. But it can also mean just engaging your senses throughout the day. When you're making your favorite meal and eating it, can you not just gobble it down while you're distracted and thinking about something else, but can you actually be present with it and engage your senses? Can you look at the food and appreciate the different colors? Can you smell it? Can you really taste each component, each flavor that you're getting? Right? It's like making life more pleasurable. This is also like the foundations of Tantra, But through that, you reconnect to your essence and you start to find joy and you start to bring life back into your body and into your experience. And a woman, or any person for this matter, that is filled with life is filled with aliveness. And that is seen. You can feel that and you can see that in someone. You can see it through their eyes. You can see it in their expression. They radiate, right? When we say, wow, you're glowing, you're radiating. There's this magnetic pull towards people that are just in their power and in their joy and in their pleasure. So find ways, when you go watch a sunset, can you really admire the beauty and allow yourself to be filled up by that beauty? Can you feel your lover's hand and how beautiful it is to just touch someone else, to be hand in hand, locked in, to give someone a hug? Like, can we open up to receiving? Because again, this is a feminine quality. And when we don't allow ourselves, when we shrink up and close our hearts and guard ourselves because we're afraid and disconnected, we're not allowing life to move through us. And then we wonder why we feel off, why we feel disconnected, why we're lacking the joy and the awe for life and the motivation. It's all playing a role. So the more you can allow your nervous system to open, your heart to open, and you engage through your senses in every little thing that you do, everything can be a pleasurable experience if you allow it to, right? And so I encourage you to start to tap into your pleasure and your play and use nature as a vehicle for that. Again, like I said, this is a lifelong journey and beautiful exploration. This is the self-discovery piece. Self-healing and self-discovery are the two pieces that I talk about in this podcast and in this work that I do that are really at the foundation of everything, of us becoming the people we want to be and reconnecting to our truth. And it's a beautiful journey that gets to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. All right, y'all. So those are the 3 buckets. Thank you for sticking with me. I know this was a lot, but I hope that you can see how important each of these categories are, because they make up the wholeness that is you. And they all have their place. And you don't have to do one before the other. There's no structure. This is just a loose idea of the components you get to look at. I mean, hopefully always, but especially when you are feeling disconnected, or you are just, something feels off, or there's a different way, or you're capable of more, come back to these. Make them your own. Allow them to be your guidebook to your human experience, to your most magnetic, authentic, vital, connected self, and therefore a life that reflects that. And again, this is your invitation. If you are ready to go deeper, if you want to do this work in a conscious, intimate community with other women, which accelerates this path, because the same way you can't see yourself unless you look in the mirror, that's why we need life and other people, because they are mirrors for us. Not only to show us where we're still stuck in limiting beliefs, but also to show us what our gifts are, what our magic is, how beautiful we are, right? We need those reminders sometimes from the external world and from our people. And so that's why we're doing this journey in community. And it's going to be a 3-month container. We're meeting every single week on Thursday nights on Zoom. And we're going to go through this process. So again, whether you are currently in a phase where you're feeling disconnected and stuck and anxious and lacking self-trust, this is perfect for you. This will catapult you into your next chapter of life and help you meet yourself deeper in the most beautiful way. And even if you're not, even if life's gone pretty good, it can always get better. It can always get better. Right? We talked about that limitless nature of this reality and of our potential. So if you want to tap into that and you're ready for more because you know you're capable and you're worthy of it, join us. Join us. The program is called Home. All the details are going to be in the show notes below. We're going to move through mind, body, and spirit to really deepen your connection to yourself. Change the way you look at things. Change the way you look at yourself so that you can come home to yourself on the deepest levels. And that's going to amplify your radiance, your magnetism, which in turn is going to influence in a positive way every single area of your life, because you are at the center of it. And your radiance, your energetic body, your state of being that you are vibrating at as you move through life and doing what you're doing influences what you attract back to you, right? That is manifestation. So you are always a good investment. Always. It's always going to return to you tenfold. I know it can be scary to invest in yourself, but man, there's nothing else more worthy, because everything stems from you and your inner world. And there's always new layers to meet yourself at, and new levels of self-mastery to learn and to practice. So here's your invitation. We start in just a few weeks. So if you feel this in your body, trust it. Trust the feeling. Come learn more in the link below. And if you have any questions, DM me on Instagram. I'll include my handle below. Send me a DM, and I'm so happy to chat to see if this is a good fit for you. When you transform within, your external reality will reflect that. You are so worthy, and the universe has your back. You got this. I love you. I believe in you, and I'm here for you. Sending you so much love. Mwah.